King wanted to go fishing. He asked the royal weather forecaster for the forecast for the next few hours. The palace meteorologist assured him that there was no chance of rain. So the king and the queen went fishing. On the way, he met a man with a fishing pole riding on a donkey and asked the man if the fish were biting. The fisherman said, "Your Majesty, you should return to the palace. In just a short time, I expect a huge rainstorm." The king replied, "I hold the palace meteorologist in high regard. He is an educated and experienced professional. Besides, I pay him very high wages. He gave me a very different forecast. I trust him." So the king continued on his way. However, torrential rain fell from the sky in a short time. The king and queen were utterly drenched. Furious, the king returned to the palace and ordered the meteorologist to fire. Then he summoned the fisherman and offered him the prestigious position of royal forecaster. The fisherman said, "Your Majesty, I know nothing about forecasting. I obtain my information from my donkey. If I see my donkey's ears drooping, it means with certainty that it will rain." So the king hired the donkey, and thus began the practice of hiring dumb asses to work in influential positions of government. The practice is unbroken to this date.
That's good.
While riding my motorbike, I swerved to avoid hitting a deer, lost control, and landed in a ditch, severely banging my head. Dazed and confused, I crawled out of the ditch to the edge of the road when a shiny new convertible pulled up with a very beautiful woman who asked, "Are you okay?" As I looked up, I noticed she was wearing a low-cut blouse with cleavage to die for. "I'm okay, I think," I replied as I pulled myself up to the side of the car to get a closer look. She said, "Get in and I'll take you home so I can clean and bandage that nasty scrape on your head." "That's nice of you," I answered, "but I don't think my wife will like me doing that." "Oh, come now, I'm a nurse," she insisted. "I need to see if you have any more scrapes and then treat them properly." Well, she was pretty and very persuasive. Being sort of shaken and weak, I agreed, but repeated, "I'm sure my wife won't like this." We arrived at her place, which was just a few miles away, and after a couple of cold beers and the bandaging, I thanked her and said, "I feel a lot better, but I know my wife is going to be really upset, so I'd better go now." "Don't be silly," she said with a smile. "Stay for a while. She won't know anything. By the way, where is she?" "Still in the ditch with the motorbike, I guess."
That's terrible!
I was walking down the street when I was accosted by a particularly dirty and shabby-looking homeless man who asked me for a couple of dollars for dinner. I took out my wallet, extracted $10, and asked, "If I give you this money, will you buy some beer with it instead of dinner?" "No, I had to stop drinking years ago," the homeless man replied. "Will you use it to go fishing instead of buying food?" I asked. "No, I don't waste time fishing," the homeless man said. "I need to spend all my time trying to stay alive." "Will you spend this on hunting equipment?" I asked. "Are you nuts?" replied the homeless man. "I haven't gone hunting in 20 years. "Well," I said, "I'm not going to give you money. Instead, I'm going to take you home for a shower and a terrific dinner cooked by my wife." The homeless man was astounded. "Won't your wife be furious with you for doing that?" I replied, "Don't worry about that. It's important for her to see what a man looks like after he has given up drinking, fishing, and hunting."
You're not bringing home a homeless man.
And golfing. And
you
surfing.
You don't fish and hunt, so we're good. We're good here.
A woman is at her boyfriend's parents' house for dinner. This is her first time meeting the family, and she is very nervous. The woman is beginning to feel a little discomfort, thanks to her nervousness and the broccoli casserole. The gas pains are making her eyes water. Left with no other choice, she decides to relieve herself a bit and lets out a dainty fart. It wasn't loud, but everyone at the table heard the poof. Before she even had a chance to be embarrassed, her boyfriend's father looked over at the cat that had been snoozing at the woman's feet and said in a rather stern voice, "Bubbles!" The woman thought, "This is great," and a big smile came across her face. A couple of minutes later, she was beginning to feel the pain again. This time, she didn't even hesitate. She let a much louder and longer fart rip. The father again looked at the cat and yelled, "Damn it, Bubbles!" Once again, the woman smiled and thought, yes. A few minutes later, the woman had to let another one rip. This time, she didn't even think about it. She let rip a fart that rivaled a train whistle blowing. Once again, the father looked at the cat with disgust and yelled, "Damn it, Bubbles, get away from her before she shits on you." A first-grade teacher, Ms. Brooks, was having trouble with one of her students. The teacher asked, "Harry, what's your problem?" Harry answered, "I'm too smart for the first grade. My sister is in the third grade and I'm smarter than she is. I think I should be in the third grade too." Ms. Brooks had enough. She took Harry to the principal's office. While Harry waited in the outer office, the teacher explained to the principal what the situation was. The principal told Ms. Brooks he would give the boy a test. If he failed to answer any of his questions, he was to go back to the first grade and behave. She agreed. Harry was brought in and the conditions were explained to him, and he agreed to take the test. Principal: "What is 3 is 3? Harry: 9. Principal: "What is 6 6? Harry: 36. And so it went. With every question the principal thought a third grader should know. The principal looks at Ms. Brooks and tells her, "I think Harry can go to the third grade." Ms. Brooks says to the principal, "Let me ask him some questions." The principal and Harry both agreed. Ms. Brooks asks, "What does a cow have 4 of that I have only 2 of?" Harry, after a moment, "Legs." Ms. Brooks: "What is in your pants that you have but I do not have?" The principal wondered why would she ask such a question. Harry replied, "Pockets." Ms. Brooks: "What does a dog do that a man steps into?" Harry: "Pants." The principal sat forward with his mouth hanging open. Ms. Brooks: "What goes in hard and pink, then comes out soft and sticky?" The principal's eyes opened really wide, and before he could stop the answer, Harry replied, "Bubble gum." Ms. Brooks: "What does a man do standing up? A woman does sitting down, and a dog does on 3 legs." Harry: "Shake hands." The principal was trembling. Ms. Brooks: "What word starts with an F and ends in K that means a lot of heat and excitement?" Harry: "Fire truck." The principal breathed a sigh of relief and told the teacher, "Put Harry in the 5th grade. I got the last 6 questions wrong."
So did I.
So did I.
A funeral service is held for a woman who just passed away. As the pallbearers carry the casket out, they accidentally bump into a wall. They hear a faint moan. They open the casket and find that the woman is actually alive. She lives for 10 more years and then dies. They have another funeral for her. At the end of the service, the pallbearers carry out the casket. As they are walking, the husband cries out, "Watch out for the wall."
The day after his wife disappeared in a kayaking accident, an Anchorage man answered his door to find 2 grim-faced Alaska State Troopers. "We're sorry, Mr. Wilkins, but we have some information about your wife," said one trooper. "Tell me, did you find her?" Wilkins shouted. The troopers looked at each other. One said, "We have some bad news, some good news, and some really great news. Which do you want to hear first?" Fearing the worst, an ashen Mr. Wilkins said, "Give me the bad news first." The trooper said, "I'm sorry to tell you, sir, but this morning we found your wife's body in Kachemak Bay." "Oh, my God!" exclaimed Wilkins. Swallowing hard, he asked, "What's the good news?" The trooper continued, "When we pulled her up, she had 12 25-pound king crabs and 6 good-sized Dungeness crabs clinging to her, and we feel you are entitled to a share in the catch." Stunned, Mr. Wilkins demanded, "If that's the good news, what's the great news?" The trooper said, "We're going to pull her up again tomorrow." Women went out for a girls' night and got a bit too enthusiastic with the cocktails. As they drunkenly stumbled home, they both suddenly realized they needed to pee. Conveniently near a graveyard, one suggested they handle their business behind a headstone. The first woman, without anything to wipe with, decided to use her panties and toss them away. Her friend, wearing an expensive set of underwear, didn't want to sacrifice hers. Instead, she found a large ribbon from a wreath on a grave and used that instead. Once done, they headed home. The next day, the first woman's husband called the other and said, "These girls' nights have got to stop. My wife came home without her panties last night." The other replied, "That's nothing. Mine came back with a sympathy card stuck between her cheeks that said, 'From all of us at the fire station, we'll never forget you.'"
That is awesome.
A middle-aged woman walked into her gynecologist's office, looking a bit embarrassed. "Come on now," the doctor said with a reassuring smile. "You've been coming here for years. You can tell me anything." "Well, this one's a bit odd," she admitted. "Let me be the judge of that," the doctor replied. "All right," she sighed. "Yesterday morning I went to the bathroom and heard a plink, plink, plink in the toilet. When I looked down, the water was full of pennies." "I see," the doctor said calmly. Then in the afternoon I went again, plink, plink, plink. This time there were 5-pence pieces. And last night, plink, 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 50 pence. This morning it was pound coins, she exclaimed. Doctor, what's happening to me? I'm terrified. The gynecologist gently patted her shoulder. There, he said with a smile. Nothing to worry about. You're simply going through the change.
It took you long enough. I was like, should I be patient and wait?
3 nuns are painting a room, but they're struggling to paint the room without ruining their clothes. One nun suggests they remove their robes to keep them safe. And after some thought, they all agree. After some time, there's a knock at the door and they freeze as they don't want to be caught naked. Who is it? One nun asks. Who's out there? Another says. Blind man, says a voice. The nun turns to the others and says, Look, if he's blind, he won't know that we're naked, so we can let him in and we'll carry on painting. Come in, they call out. The man enters and says, Nice tits. Where do you want me to put the blinds?
It is good.
A man was speeding down a backcountry road when he saw a rabbit hopping in the middle of the road. Although he tried to swerve and miss it, he hit the rabbit squarely. Being a true animal lover, the man slammed on his brakes, leapt from his car, and hurried to see if the rabbit was all right. To his dismay, he found the rabbit was dead. As the man sorrowing over the rabbit's limp body, he heard another car coming. The other car stopped and the driver emerged to see what was going on. The other driver, a blonde, nudged the rabbit's limp body with her toe and remarked that it surely was dead. The man once again expressed his grief over having killed the poor innocent animal, but the blonde said not to worry. She ran to her car, dug around inside, and returned with a spray can. She sprayed the rabbit's body and, sure enough, after a few minutes, the rabbit stirred, quivered, and then rose to a crouching position. A moment later, the rabbit started down the road as if nothing had ever happened. However, every few feet, the rabbit would turn and wave goodbye. The man was astounded. He snatched the spray can from the blonde to see just what kind of magic she had done. The spray can bore the label, Alberto VO5, restores life to any dead limp hair and gives it a permanent wave.
Right, dead.